Jai. Jagannath Puri ki Jai. Gangamai ki Jai. Jamunamai ki Jai. Tulsi Devi ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Om. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam 4:16-5. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Esha Vai Lokapalanam Biparti Ekas Tano Tanuhu Kale Kale Yatabhagam Lokayor Ubhayor Hitam Eshavai Lokapalanam Vipartye Kastano Tanuhu Kale Kale Yatabhagam Lokayor Ubhayor Hitam Eshavai Lokapalanam Bibhartye Kastano Tanuhu Kale Kale Yatabhagam Lokayor Ubhayor Hitam Eshaha, this king, by certainly, Lokapalanam, of all the demigods, Biparti, might as well do something. Biparti bears, Ekaha, alone, to know in his body, to know the bodies, kale kale, in due course of time, yata, according to, bhagam, proper share, lokayoho, of planetary systems, ubhayoho, both, hitam, welfare. This king alone, in his own body, will be able in due course of time to maintain all living entities and keep them in a pleasant condition by manifesting himself as different demigods to perform various departmental activities. Thus, he will maintain the upper planetary system by inducing the populace to perform Vedic sacrifices. In due course of time, he will also maintain this earthly planet by discharging proper rainfall. Purport: the demigods in charge of the various departmental activities that maintain this world are but assistants to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When an incarnation of Godhead descends on this planet, demigods, like the sun god, the moon god, or the king of heaven, Indra, all join him. Consequently, the incarnation of Godhead is able to act for the departmental demigods to keep the planetary systems in order. The protection of the earthly planet is dependent on proper rainfall, and as stated in Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures, sacrifices are performed to please those demigods who are in charge of rainfall. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavaha yagya bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhavaha. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagya, and yagya is born of prescribed duties. Thus, the proper execution of yagya, sacrifice, is required. As indicated herein, King Prithu alone would induce all the citizens to engage in such sacrificial activities so that there would not be scarcity or distress. In Kali Yuga, however, in the so-called secular state, the executive branch of government is in the charge of so-called kings and presidents who are all fools and rascals, ignorant of the intricacies of nature's causes, and ignorant of the principles of sacrifice. Such rascals simply make various plans which always fail, and the people subsequently suffer disturbances. To counteract this situation, the Shastras advise Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Nama eva kevalam, Kalo nascheva, 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 gatir anyata. Thus, in order to counteract this unfortunate situation in government, the general populace is advised to chant the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Om Jnana Timidantasya Jnananjanas Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharane Nirishe Shushunyavari Paschati Deshnani. Eshavai Lokapalanan Bibartyeka Stano Tanu Kale Kale Yata Pagam Lokayor Rupayor Hitam. The Prithu Maharaj is, I guess I should also say check your cell phones, please. See that they're in silent mode. So Prithu Maharaj here is glorified as an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the support of everything, the resting place of everything, the controller of everything. Everything is Mai Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Maniganaiva. Everything rests on him as pearls rest on a thread. So all the demigods rest on the personality of Godhead. All the demigods rest on the personality of Godhead. The demigods are all expansions of the Lord, and their powers all depend on the Lord. They're agents of the Lord. We see in the modern governments, when, at least in America, when a new president is elected, then all his guys come in with him, his secretaries, his appointees, and all the old guys go out. I don't know how it is here, probably similar. But because all of those people depend on him. When he comes, they can tag along. And when he leaves, they're all out. So the demigods all depend on the personality of Godhead. They're all appointees. The demigods are all living entities, appointed by the personality of Godhead. All right, you can be Indra, you can be Chandra, you can be this one, that one. They're appointed. And if not appointed, then they're expanded by the personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is not an appointed living entity, but he's expanded from the personality of Godhead. Here, Brahma, Shiva, they're not in consideration. The demigods are the ones who are the functional ones, who are providing the rain, who are providing the sunlight. Administrative demigods. So, Lokapalana, protectors of the planetary system. Eshavai Lokapalanam Vipartyeka Tano Tanu. So it's said that on his body alone, all the other bodies depend. In a family also, the bodies of the children, the other family members depend on the husband. He works, he maintains the family. Of course, things change, but traditionally, the bodies of the children are dependent on the body of the husband. He works and he maintains the children and wife. So the personality of Godhead, of course, he doesn't have to work. Natasya karyam karnam cha vidyate. But all of the demigods depend on him. Alone, the demigods can't do anything. They can't do anything. They're completely dependent. Even Brahma, at the beginning of the creation, he couldn't do anything. Although he's Brahma, he had his four heads, he had everything. But until enlightened by the personality of Godhead, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know who he was, why he was there, how to do anything. It all depended on enlightenment from the original person, Krishna. So here, Prithu Maharaj is considered the incarnation of that original personality of Godhead. So it's said that all the bodies of the demigods depended on this one body, the body of King Prithu. And what was his business? Kale kale yata bhagam lokayor upayor hitam. In course of time, yata bhagam, according to their share or according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives several meanings: greatness, power, several others. But as behooving, as befitting, yata bhagam, he provided for both worlds, ubayor lokayor, the welfare of both worlds. Both worlds means this planet Earth and the upper planetary systems. The third world isn't included, the lower planets aren't mentioned, but he maintained the upper planetary systems, means the Devaloka, and Martyaloka, the world of human beings, by sacrifice. Yagyartat karmanon yatra loko yam karma bandhana tarartam api karmani mukta sangha samaja. The business of the human society is to perform yajna, sacrifice. Yajna bhavati parjanya. The sacrifices are, by performance of sacrifice, we get our necessities, the rainfall, everything needed. And therefore, the inhabitants of Vrindavan arranged for a big sacrifice. Krishna asked, what is this sacrifice about? Is this a traditional, is it shastric, is it traditional, what's this about? Oh, my dear boy, this is basically traditional, this is what we do here, because we're living in the village. The village depends on the cows especially. Our livelihood depends on the cows, and the cows, they eat the grass, and the grass comes from the rain, and the rain is provided by Indra, and so we have to keep Indra happy by performing sacrifices so that he'll be pleased with us and send regulated rain. Ishtan bhogan hivo deva dasyante yagyapavita tayardattana pradayabhyo yo bhunkte stain evasam. One has to offer sacrifice to the demigods, otherwise if he doesn't do that, then he's just a thief. It's like going into the store and helping yourself to fruits and vegetables or whatever, but not paying at the checkout counter. You have to pay, otherwise you're not entitled to take from the store. Or
if nobody pays, the store will go out of business. So we have to all pay, and then actually we shouldn't sit like that in front of the deities. Yeah, that's good. We all pay, and then the store stays in business, and the vegetables are provided, and so on. So we have to pay. That's called yajna. Uh, so Nanda Maharaj instructed Krishna, so it's our business to satisfy the Indra especially, then everything will go nicely. No, Krishna, no, I don't think we need to do this. Anyway, Indra supplies rain even on the ocean where they don't need rain. He just performs his duty. No need to worship Indra. Of course, he's speaking against Vedic conclusions, speaking like an atheist, but he has a purpose. Now things are going on automatically. You don't need to offer sacrifice. But let's offer sacrifice to Govardhan Hill. That will be nice. Let's worship Govardhan. Well, I don't think so. We could offer 2 sacrifices. First, let's finish the Indra Yagya, then we can worship Govardhan Hill. No, it'll take too much time. To get this all together is a big deal. Just let's take everything that's already assembled and use it to worship Govardhan Hill. So Nanda Maharaj, all right, Krishna is asking, so we'll somehow or other he's agreed. Krishna's persuasive. So they did a big yagya to worship Govardhan Hill, and you know all the trouble that came from that. And at the end, Krishna protected everybody by lifting the Govardhan Hill. Prabhupada said he thought that to deal with Indra is the business of my little finger. That's Krishna. Sarvadharman Pratyaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. We can give up all these kriyas and dharmas and yagyas and this, that, and simply take shelter of Krishna and worship Krishna. Just as by watering the root of a tree, one waters the whole tree, or by putting food in the stomach, one provides energy for the whole body. Well, simply by worshipping Achyuta, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we can satisfy all the demigods and everyone else. So here, of course, the sacrifices were going on, and Prithu Maharaj in this way, first of all, saw that there would be prosperity on earth because the yagyas are going on, and he saw that the demigods would get their share. No sacrifice, no share. And we read elsewhere that the demigods actually depend on these sacrifices. Without sacrifices, they'll starve. So so everyone was so Prithu Maharaj, although situated as a king on earth, was seeing to the welfare even of the demigods, as well as the human beings. Devan bhavyatani nate deva bhavyantu parasparam bhavyanta shreyo paramavapsyata. Everyone's welfare was included. Now Prabhupada said, and he was the head of state, so the government would see to this, that yagyas were performed, prescribed duties were performed for the welfare of all. Not like that. The same thing. But in the Kali Yuga, only one yagya is recommended, the Sankirtan yagya. Yagya Sankirtana prior yajantihi sumedasa. In the Kali Yuga, the intelligent people will perform Harinam Sankirtan Yagya. They'll worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in this age as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by that yagya, every purpose will be satisfied. All right. Any questions? Do you have any questions? No? Okay. Any questions? No questions. Yes. Hare Krishna. How are the demigods dependent on the sacrifices made by mankind? It's mentioned in Brihad Bhagavatamrita that they get a share. Bhagam. Bhagam here means a share of the sacrifices. So it seems, and it's mentioned in Brihad Bhagavatamrita that the demigods Indra had been glorified, and then Gopkumar came to Indraloka and also began glorifying Indra. And Indra deprecated himself. He said when the demons were stopping the sacrifices, I was practically starving. Although I'm supposed to be the great Indra, we were starving. So it seems that the demigods also get a share of these sacrifices. And that's when the sacrifices are performed. Indra, Idam Indraya Namama. This is for Indra, this is for Ganesh, this is for this one, this is for that one. They all get their share of the sacrifices, and that's what they subsist on. That's what we hear. And therefore they all have to be satisfied, otherwise we get complaints by the demigods. You left me out, you left me out, you left me out. And there's 33 million demigods, so there's a lot of ground to cover. Therefore the best thing is that we'll satisfy Krishna. And when Krishna is satisfied, then all the demigods get everything. Just you pour water on the root of the tree, you don't have to separately water leaf 243, leaf 247. Everything is covered in watering the root. Everything will be distributed. We can be confident. When sacrifice is offered to Krishna, aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhareva cha, in Bhagavad Gita, I'm the aham hi sarva yajna bhokta, I'm the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. I'm the beneficiary. I'm the right person to whom all the sacrifices should be offered. Naitu mam abhijananti tatvena taschivanti. Those who don't know this fall down. Is that okay? Yeah. Ultimately, yes, they're totally dependent on Krishna. They can't do, and everyone, even we're dependent on the demigods. Even the various body parts are presided over by various demigods, and without them they won't work. So the eyes are dependent on the sun, and it's not just sort of a metaphorical, but minus sunlight, your eyes are useless. We need the sun, we need something to see, and we need the eyes. You subtract any one of those three and you'll have blindness. Not just that because I have good eyes and there's something there to see, I can see it. The sun has to be there also. For the tongue has to be there, something to taste has to be there, and water has to be there. And the demigod who presides over the water is in charge of that water. So we can't taste anything, we can't see anything. All the active senses, also the arms, the legs, they're all controlled by various demigods. Even just raising an eyebrow can't be done without the cooperation of the demigod who controls the mechanics of these things. The body is not an independent machine. It depends on all these intricate parts and on basic constituents like earth, water, fire. Fire in the belly, the fire goes out, no one can digest anything. Water, without hydration, therefore all this, hydration as these days. Drink our stuff, because hydration is so important that you should spend $2.50 per liter for our brand of hydration. But in any case, we do need water. So that depends on the Varuna Dev or on Indra, depending which way you're getting your water. Not independently. We can't independently produce water. When water is needed, we won't say where the city gets it, but they don't manufacture it from scratch. So we're dependent on the demigods, and the demigods are dependent on Krishna, finally. Even the lesser demigods, when they have difficulty, they go to Brahma. When he has problems, he goes to Narayan. So, Mayi Sarvamidam Protam Sutre Maniganaiva. Everything's resting on Krishna as pearls on a thread. When there's a necklace, we don't see the thread. But without the thread, if the thread's not there, there's no necklace. The necklace depends on, the pearls depend on the thread. So Krishna is the thread that holds everything together. Without Krishna, no demigods, no world, no nothing. Something else? Okay, something else on this side? Yes? No one? No one does any yajna. Still they're getting. That means some good fortune still left from previous pious activities. But it's really quite messy. The climate becomes unregulated. Already it's going weird. In so many countries, rain just comes when it comes. There's no season, there's no order, and the farmers can get wiped out. Therefore, people don't want to be farmers, because you can't, it's dependent on rain, which may come, may not come. Talk to people who are farmers. It's tough. You don't know, you're at the mercy of the elements, and you don't know what the elements are going to do. You plant, and then a frost comes and all your crops are wiped out, or you plant and then the rain doesn't come and all your plants are wiped out. But when things are proper, then everything's regulated. In India still there's a rainy season. You know, okay, from this time to that time. Although that's also becoming now affected. Kadamakandan Maharaj was for many years the temple president of Vrindavan. He told me one time that it used to be that there would be, apart from the rainy season, at such and such time there would be like some light rains, and then the rainy season would come, and so on and so on. And the farmers knew it. At such and such time the light rains will come, at such and such time the rainy season will come in. But he said after the Gulf War, don't ask me what the connection was, but after the Gulf War, that was no longer reliable. The light rains wouldn't come, or they wouldn't come on time. And so that's had an effect on the farmers. They can't depend on the usual seasonal arrangement, which was working so well for time out of memory. And don't ask me what we did to the environment to screw that up, but we do. Yes. And excuse me while I'm thinking of it. And then we don't perform yagyas, and we think we can manage everything on our own. But then you get huge wildfires, you get huge cyclones, you get things getting, nature really saying, we're not happy, and we're gonna let you know. Huge disasters, apart from just undependable, unregulated, unreliable seasons, and particularly rain. It's not as great as we'd like it to believe. Now there's more of everything, except it's less. It looks good. You get like let's take a tomato for example. Now you get these fantastic tomatoes. Each one looks just like the one next to it. They're perfectly standardized, but there's nothing to them. The nutritional value is shot. The taste is like cardboard tomatoes. They're they're the dim reflection of tomatoes. I went to Bulgaria last year. Bulgaria was famous for its tomatoes. They have tomatoes like this, big tomatoes, and they're a little ugly. They're not your standard round, exactly right tomatoes, but they're just full of flavor, full of nutrition. They're like amazing tomatoes, and Bulgaria was famous for these tomatoes. Just not exactly the size of pumpkins, but they're big and juicy and full of flavor and nutritional value. Now, that's not, you can still get them. You have to be like in touch with the farmers markets and so on to get them. But the farmers mostly don't produce them because that's not what the food companies buy. They want the nice, pretty little round ones that can be shipped anywhere in the world. They can, endure 3 weeks in shipping and then sit on the shelf for another 3 weeks and still look nice and glossy and red and so on. So that's what the companies are buying, and so that's what the farmers are producing because they have to produce what the customer wants to buy. And so instead of real tomatoes, instead of the famous Bulgarian wonderful tomatoes, you get these little red tomatoettes, or what do you call them? Upa tomatoes. Upa means something like almost tomatoes, upa tomatoes. You get upa tomatoes, upa pumpkins, upa spinach, upa bananas, upa grapes, upa everything, because it's grown specifically for transport and the modern commercial food chain. Nutrition takes a hit, everything takes a hit. Chemicals are a regular part of our diet unless we spend for organic. And what is that called? Roundup. Roundup is a product of Monsanto chemical company. So your seeds should be the right seeds to work in conjunction with Roundup, the pesticide. So if you have the wrong seeds, then you won't get the full benefit of Roundup. And if you don't have Roundup, though, then you can't, your crops will be wiped out. And so you have to have your genetically modified seeds, and then you have to have your chemical pesticide. None of it's really necessary. And in fact, I saw somewhere in India, I forget where and what the circumstances were, but the crops were all getting wiped out because the land was getting wiped out because they were using these genetically modified seeds, which they were told would yield them amazing harvests. And instead everything was failing, and the farmers were literally committing suicide. And on the other side, the farmers who went natural, went organic, and just decided to depend on Krishna's arrangement were doing fantastically. They were getting like huge yields because Krishna's arrangement is better than our arrangement. Anyway, America doesn't have that problem. We've got it down, if we've got the right chemicals, the right seeds, the right assembly line, the right everything, so that you can depend on getting your upa bananas and upa tomatoes and upa everything. But then you don't get the taste, you don't get the nutrition. But it looks like we've made progress. You get the appearance of progress. And even the real thing, because you've got big buildings, you've got progress. Big buildings are actually retrogressive. Big building means you can concentrate an unnaturally large population in one small part and have everyone dependent on the intensive infrastructure. Take any one of these skyscrapers, any one of these luxury premium apartment buildings, if the toilets go out, it's all over. And they can. So Krishna's arrangement is a reasonable people living spread out over the land, getting food locally. People, even I was in Hawaii not that long ago. In Hawaii everything grows, even better than Australia, where quite good, but Hawaii it's fantastic. And they import all their food because the land is too valuable to waste on food production. They use it for hotels and that sort of thing. And so they have to import import bananas from Peru or something for Hawaii. Their grains, their fruits, their everything imported. Yeah. So it's the appearance of progress, big tall buildings and people living an artificial way of life. That's not actually progress. That's and then passion. So your murders and your rapes and your everything, and people working how many hours a week, how many hours a day, because they have to pay for. I mean, you're going to live in an apartment, you're going to live in a little box about half the size of this room, and for that you're going to pay what, $2,000, $3,000 a month? Is that about, yeah, $2,000 a month to live in a little box, 20 flights up, because that's progress. We have one devotee used to live in New York City. He, by destiny and hard work, he became a very successful record producer, record company. And so they had their headquarters in Manhattan and all of that. But because he's intelligent and a devotee and so on, he thought, why do I need to live in New York City? He moved 2 hours north of New York City to a totally agrarian place, cornfields and all of that. For the price of his little box in New York City, he had, a nice big house and with property around it and so on for less the price than this place in New York. Instead of his expensive office building, company bought a barn and converted it for their needs. Employees were living at a fraction of what they were spending in New York. So it was totally a great arrangement. But we think, no, we have to live in New York City and pay for parking, for tolls, for this, for that, for everything. No. And when he needs to go to New York City, gets on a train, 2 hours going, 2 hours coming back, done. And he doesn't need to go very often. So we've created an artificial way of life for ourselves. Griha, kshetra, sutapta. Griha, home, kshetra, land, no land. You get a box up there someplace, but no actual land. Griha, kshetra. Oh, and what kind of values? We have progressive. So we come from India to Australia, and we get an amazingly together civilization, with all of the techno, everything, and everything delivered, boom, 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 boom. But then you get the values of cat and dog life. So, and we think we're making progress. No. If we're making so much progress, why isn't everyone happy? It's mentioned here, you made the people happy. People aren't happy. Why are they not happy? Look at all we've got. 5G. We used to have 2G, and now we have 5G, and so we're 3 times happier, right? We have all this fantastic gear, but look at people's faces. Face is the index of mind. They're not happy. Even material happiness means mama bear, papa bear, baby bears. The mama and papa bears divorce half the time because they're not happy. And baby bears get into all sorts of little baby bears injecting this and injecting that and snorting this and smoking that. Because we have an advanced civilization in which no one knows the real values of life, in which people don't know who they are. They think the body is the self, that's everything. They don't know who God is, they don't know who they are, they don't know what duties they might have, what relationship they might have to God. Only we're making progress. There was a company, what was it? I forget which American corporation, but back in the 1950s their motto was better living through chemistry. If we just have all these chemicals that we produce, you'll have a better life. Where's the better life? It's illusory. Maya Sukhaya Param Udvahato Vimudhan. Prahlad Maharaj says these Vimudhan, Prabhupada says fools and rascals, Prahlad Maharaj says big fools and rascals, Vimudhan, have created a humbug civilization. Prabhupada called it that, humbug. Param, a burdensome civilization of false happiness, illusory happiness. And as Prabhupada pointed out yesterday in the purport, everyone has to pay through the nose for this illusory happiness. Tax, tax, tax. Finally the taxes will become so unbearable that people will flee to the forest just to escape the tax. And everybody, there'll be no escaping taxes because everybody's got, they'll know where you are at any given moment because all the data is in their machinery, so they can pounce on you at any moment. You didn't pay this tax, you didn't pay this tax, this tax. already, I don't know what the tax rate is, but it's huge. And then to keep afloat, you have to borrow money at interest rates that they used to put people in jail for charging. What, 27% interest on a credit card? Is that right? Is that right? 27% interest on a credit card? It's like 25%. That's, 1/4 of what you spend for something is the interest. I have a friend who, anyway, we won't get into all of that, but tax, interest. We're happy, but we're in debt. Where's the happiness? Debt means anxiety. So this artificial life means a false appearance of happiness, but really working under tremendous burdens. Interest payments, debt, tax. Dasya Prayeshu Rajasu, the heads of state will be like plunderers. Tax, tax, tax. Yes. How do we do what? Make a positive impact on the world? Chant Hare Krishna. Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasa. This chanting will have the most positive impact. It purifies the mind. It gives freedom from anxiety. It satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything will follow if there's kirtan. Well, they're just chanting Hare Krishna. Just. This is the most important thing. You think that because you're a thief, you think you'll get everything just by manipulation. You can just steal it. No, there's no God, because there's no God in control. What is that? Jagadahuranisharam. There's no God in control. Everything's ours. We can just take it. No. Stain it, then you're a thief. And the laws of nature will punish you severely. You think you'll get free, no? There's no God in control that we can just take. No? There's God, and we're His servants. If we don't accept that, then we'll be miserable. The laws of nature alone will make us miserable. Krishna won't have to come to make us miserable. Nature will make us miserable. And if nature doesn't do it, then our fellow human beings will do it. Through so many cheating schemes, the extent to which the governments of the world are cheating, misleading, bluffing, scheming, scamming, is fairly well hid, especially when it's the big governments. The little governments, they don't have the sophistication, everybody can see them do it. When Nigeria or some third world countries cheating, it's just so obvious. The president's got, entered office as a pauper, and now he's got 4 yachts and 2 airplanes and 6 wives and all of that. And when he leaves the country, the economy collapses. Well, everyone can see through that. But the big governments do a lot better. They can steal just as effectively and not get caught. You don't see them doing it. You don't see them doing it. But they and their friends, meanwhile, absorb all the money. They absorb all the money through different schemes, which we will not invest in in talking about today. But one small percentile of the population will own 95% of the capital. And they're busy at the moment, according to what we've heard from reasonably reliable sources, they're busy buying up land, farmland. Because, a brief summary, you want to put your money where it's going to earn the most. If you put your money in an ordinary bank, you'll get, 0.5% interest? That's nothing. If you put it in an online bank, you can get 3 or 4, maybe 5% interest these days. If you put it in equities, stocks and so on, you can get a little better. But if you put it in farmland, wow. Because the value of that property increases and increases and increases. And meanwhile, you can farm it and sell your produce. So you're making money. You're sitting on, instead of sitting on, bank deposits or notes for equities, you're sitting on land. The land you can produce from and make more money, and the value of the land is increasing at a far greater rate than precious metals, bank interest, stocks and bonds, and all of that. So the biggest of the big are busy buying up farmland, which means that the ordinary farmer will not have land, but the biggest of the big corporations will have all the land and therefore be able to dictate what happens to virtually all the land. So we will be, in still another way, enslaved. They'll own the land, they'll own the water, they'll own the air, practically speaking. Everything will be in their control. And you'll do what they say because you'll have no alternative, and therefore they'll tax you and tax you and tax you, and they'll know exactly where you are and how much you owe. And you'll be happy because we have a progressive civilization with upa tomatoes and what have you. No. If we cooperate with Krishna's arrangement, then immediately chant Hare Krishna and be happy. You'll chant Hare Krishna, you're immediately happy, plus you're creating a culture of happiness, a culture of knowledge, a culture of happiness, and a culture which is not, where the happiness is not Maya Sukha, it's Divya Sukha, transcendental happiness. They think that their bhautik sukha, material happiness, is happiness. No, it's the appearance of happiness. But by chanting Hare Krishna, one gets actual happiness, because it's on the platform of reality, the platform of the living being, the platform of the soul. Otherwise, even if I appear to have some happiness today, it's at the expense of others from whom I've brutalized or whom I've stolen from, killing animals, poisoning the land, cheating our neighbors. I get a lot of money and therefore a lot of happiness, but it all comes back on me. Illusory happiness. Maya sukara panamudvanto vimuda. All right, we should stop here. Huh? Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. You were amazingly good. Thank you very much.